Akshita, the latest response coming in from Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who said that he's deeply hurt by the Karur tragedy and sending out heartfelt condolences to those who've lost their loved ones in this tragedy. Back-to-back responses coming in, Akshita. Extremely painful to what has happened and what we witness as part of these pictures. But, Akshita, even as you continue talking to us, the stories that could be much more horrific, and quickly taking our viewers through that latest a post that has been put out by Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who says that deeply pained by the tragic loss of lives in a stampede in Karur in Tamil Nadu, my heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased. I pray to the Almighty to give them the strength to bear this grief and for the speedy recovery of the injured. Akshita, I want to come back to you because every possible help that they say that is being extended, but the stories that could be much more horrific than what we are gauging at this point, Akshita, of the number of children who may be separated from their families at this point, of the number of people who may be injured that include women and children, of course those who are not being able to get the ICU because of the lack of beds and its availability, and really the level of the damage of how bad the situation is going to unfold through the night tomorrow to know how bad it has been.
Truly, the actual scale of the tragedy is something as heartbreaking as it sounds. We will know only perhaps by tomorrow, because from the information that we have from our reporters, from our team in Karur, is that there are many who are still in a critical condition, many injured who remain at the hospital. So the actual scale of the tragedy, despite already 31 deaths being confirmed, Suesha, just wrap our heads around that. 31 deaths from just attending a political rally. That number could actually climb up. It breaks our heart to report that, but that is the unfortunate reality of what's playing out in Karur district of Tamil Nadu. Now, besides that, you were right to point out that even at this point, there's chaos in the district. Why do I say that? There are so many families right now who've been broken apart, not able to get a sense of where their loved ones are. There are some who are in the hospital, who hospital authorities are still trying to get details of their identity as well, trying to connect them with their families, those who've been injured, those unfortunately who also passed away. And that is part and parcel, unfortunately, of a tragedy like this, that there are so many families who will never go back to how they were a few hours ago, who've lost loved ones, who've been separated from their loved ones. And just imagine the sheer panic that so many of these families who went with little children will be undergoing right now, trying to figure out if their little child is safe, if their little child is in a hospital, what is the current situation. That really is the heartbreaking nature of this kind of a stampede that we've witnessed. If any, and you've done it, I've done it, Suesha, when we've been on the ground and reported on these tragedies, that is the most heartbreaking moment. When you see a family, when you see a father or mother come to terms with the fact that they've lost their child in this kind of a tragedy, simply from attending an event, from a political rally, from thinking that they get a chance to just see their superstar. And as we put out each of those reactions, can I just highlight here, Suesha, that, we're putting out reactions that are coming in statements on social media. There's been no statement yet from Vijay. There's been not a word that's been uttered by him on the current situation. 31 deaths have been confirmed. What is he waiting for? Why hasn't he issued a statement? Why hasn't he condemned what's happened at this rally? Why hasn't he explained to his fans, to his supporters about why something like this happened? Because there are questions that the TVK, that Vijay must answer. And the reality is that there's been no statement from him. We can't expect him at this point. And I know there will be questions asked, why isn't he at the hospital? Look at the security situation there, which is understandable. It doesn't help to have him in the hospital in this kind of a time, because that will mean a whole lot of security apparatus to be set up. But what is stopping the TVK from issuing a statement right now, giving details of what happened, or at least issuing a statement that they are with the families of these victims? It's unfortunate that we have not seen a word being uttered so far from the TVK chief, from Vijay. This has happened at his event. This has happened with people who came there in such large numbers to shower love upon him, to show their love for him. These were his supporters. And yet there's not been a single statement. That, to me, is extremely unfortunate.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, Akshita, this will be the biggest dent that Tamil Nadu has seen ahead of the polls. not just for Vijay, not just for his political career, but literally for every politician, to the kind of tragedy that has occurred and what people are having to go through in Karur. And imagine in the middle of all this, Akshita, when the police had to resort to lathi charge to clear those crowds at a time people were already feeling suffocated, already needed to get out of there, didn't have water, didn't know how to breathe, some of them probably under the crowds. Just how critical those moments are, and really what is right, what is wrong, what is the right thing to do. Just how difficult it must have been for everyone out there, Akshita.
I mean, it's heartbreaking to even imagine what they've gone through. And, the images that you see right now, it speaks volumes of what happened, that people, you see these pictures, of slippers strewn all around. That tells you the true scale of a tragedy, of the chaos, essentially, that would have broken out, that people, leaving all of their belongings, just simply try to get away, try to get to a point of safety. But when you have such crowds that have gathered, and just look at those pictures on your screens, you don't see an inch of space, Suesha. You don't see an inch of a place where anyone could have moved. And despite that, there are vans actually going into that crowd. There are vans wading further in, leading to, chaos. Where did these people move? There was no place for them to move back or front. Wherever the crowd kept moving, they kept moving. So imagine someone who trips in that crowd, you fall to the ground, and then, which is what happens inevitably in a stampede. And we're sorry to be as graphic as we are right now with those details, but this is what viewers should know about what a stampede looks like. And the inhumane manner in which it plays out. The fact is that, you'll see a little child falling, and nobody has the bandwidth to even pick up that child because there's no space. That's the kind of, crowds that gather there. Whichever way the crowd is swayed, everyone has to move in that direction. And very often, little children are the first casualties in a stampede because there's no way to locate them. There's no way to pull them up to safety. They fall down. They're trampled upon. And we apologize for being as graphic as we are right now. But that is the reality of what a stampede looks like. And that is the reality of what failure by an administration to control crowds looks like. 31 people have died as a result of something like this happening at a rally that was meant to be for people to come together and just look at their superstar in action, look at their favorite actor in action, hear what he has to say. How did it take such an ugly, tragic, disastrous turn? And these are answers people grieving and otherwise will be seeking. For the people of Tamil Nadu, today is a dark, dark chapter, one they didn't see coming. And yet many would argue that this was a tragedy waiting to happen at Vijay's rally, looking at what happened in the last few weekends. And if Pramod is with us, he can describe that for us. He's covered many of these rallies, Suesha. And I remember him telling me that one of those rallies that he went to, he was shocked by, what was happening.
Right.
By not just the crowds that had gathered, but the fact that there was nothing to be done. People were out there on their own with no help.
Akshita, in fact, more breaking news coming in. Let's quickly tell our viewers of the latest information we've received. 33 people have died. Senthil Balaji, Tamil Nadu Minister, has confirmed this. He said these 33 people that include women and children. Chief Minister Stalin is expected to go to Karur tomorrow to the hospital. And all in all, we understand so far 33 is the official death toll that has been confirmed. This casualty count that is likely to rise because many of those people who are still critically injured, over 20 who are still receiving treatment. Meanwhile, we understand that Chief Minister Stalin, who's tracking every development very closely,